everyone. Welcome to another episode of Hobby Night School. We are very lucky and honored to have Tom from Pancake Analytics join us. We are huge fans of his page. Jeremy is significantly more analytical than I am. I tend to be more emotional when I buy cards. So his page is filled with stuff that I like as far as the types of things that I collect, but they got the numbers for Jeremy. So it is a win-win and a huge family favorite in our house. So welcome, Tom. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thank you for having me on. Yeah.
I would say that Courtney, there's a common theme lately. We've had a lot of nice bearded bald men on, and so I'm not sure what Courtney's trying to do over here because I know what her preference is. So I'm like, oh, that's a good looking dude, and then I look at her, I'm like, what's going on here?
Cage posted something about like what bearded man in the hobby is Adam Sandler going to be. I'm like, just for science, who are all the bearded men in the hobby?
It'll be an amalgamation of everyone.
Oh, that's the content I'm here for.
Exactly. So, Tom, for those who don't know, and they'd have to be living under a rock because you have, I think, last time I checked, over 30,000 followers.
Yep.
You're breaking down numbers. You're attending Comic Cons. You're giving feedback on cards. Who is Pancake Analytics?
Yeah. So I have 10 plus years experience in analytics and data science. Some of the companies I've worked for is Walt Disney World. I was in their finance, specifically forecasting inventory. So you're dealing with, you got to forecast inventory for every restaurant, every hotel's an over $1 million operation per day. So a lot of pressure in that job. I worked for L'Oreal, forecasting as well. So tons of forecasting. If there's sales out there, I could be predictive about it, prescriptive. The past 9-ish years, I've been for a marketing firm. I oversee their entire analytics, decision sciences department. This year, we are leaders in our category. So I like to pat myself on the back on that. We're top place to work in the USA, top to work in Tampa. So lots of fun awards at getting people to spend more money. So 5 years ago, I decided to flip the switch a little bit. Like I still have that day job, currently do it, but I wanted to just have more fun with data, really educate people more. I started going to Comic Cons when I was a teenager. So I'd go to like Wizards World in Chicago. My dad, who was a salesman, but also on the side wanted to be like an art type dealer for comic book artists. And I'm a type C type of personality, I like to call it. Analytics, we stay in our shell. And he took me to Comic Cons to try and like talk, interact, like, oh, come out of your shell, man. 5 years ago now, I present data science panels at Comic Cons. There is some trading card focused ones. I started it kind of as a parody panel. We call it a Pokemon TCG to the moon. But like the point is like we show Holt Winters model, real accuracy. At the height of Pokemon, I was running these time series models, Holt Winters, that can predict up to however far you want to go. The further are you out, the less accurate it would be. But it was predicting a dip in October, right when Celebrations was coming out. So I used that to like kind of move out of like, okay, let me stop grading Pokemon. Like the wave is coming. And everybody thought I was crazy at the time. But, the wave hit.
You were right.
Charizard, tore an ACL or something.
Can't deny the math,
Yeah. So it's just been a lot of fun. Haven't been at any trading card like focused conventions like the Mint or the National. The Mint always falls on MegaCon, my largest convention, 150K attendees. Like, I feel like I always have to go to that one. Luckily, next year, MegaCon's going to be a month sooner, so I could actually go to the Mint. So
that's exciting.
That'd be fun,
We'll
interacting with
be
more
there.
people in the space.
So what when you predicted that dip and your actions matched what you were saying, like what was obviously you had some sort of strong confidence level to believe in the way you were interpreting the data that you were looking at. What was that data? And then now moving forward, the next time you see a trend or you see something in the numbers that you're looking at, is it going to be that much easier for you to act on it and believe what your eyes are seeing?
Yeah, yeah. So what I took was PSA 10 graded value for the entire base set. Just because when you're looking at data, you want to segment whether you use K means, RFM clustering. But luckily, with trading cards, usually 80% of sales comes from 20%. And when it comes to Pokemon, everyone knows the Kanto region, that base set, what they grew up with. So usually, what happens with base set PSA 10s will drive the entire market. Like I've built models to where we also predict the value of a PSA 10, the raw card, PSA 9. So pretty much, as opposed to taking like a little hammer, I'm hitting things with like lasers and nukes to look at all this detail. The Holt Winters model, I've used it in my career, so I rely on it a lot. So I was like, oh, let's see if we can get like predictive on where the industry's going, because I saw a lot of descriptive statistics out there where people were telling you like, oh, here's the latest sale, X%, or the entire card like, oh, all Pokemon's up like 5%, 10%.
And
This model was, oh, sorry about that. This model was predicting that dip. I know the approach. I've used it before for work. It's like, okay, this thing's probably really reliable. So I shared that, but I also wanted to be a little bit more positive because everyone hates analytics to begin with. I identified a couple of sets that were under the radar, like Gym Heroes, Neo Genesis, stuff that the model was predicting is going to take a nice slight lift. One of my followers, after I released the model, it was a couple of months, he's now CFO of some larger company. At the time, he was a financial analyst, but loves Pokemon. He, reached out to me in DMs like, "Hey, can you like rerun the model or at least just check the accuracy of it?" And so we checked it together, and it actually improved.
oh,
It got to like a 2% error rate. When I
wow.
launched it, it was at 6%. I'm just like, okay, bad news or good news? Which one do you want to hear first? Good news, the model works. Bad news is
The
like it
model
was
works.
it was right.
Yeah, that's
So this is good news, bad news kind of situation where like I proved myself right, but I proved myself right. So
Yeah,
I will be definitely taking your advice when I hear it in the future forever. We're like, well, so with analytics, so with like things like Pokemon, that's like cool because like you were saying before we started recording, like Charizard's not gonna like tear a hamstring. Where like you can put all the predictors in you want for like sports cards, but if somebody like beats up their mom or injures themselves, that kind of like throws all of that kind of
yeah. What do they
into
like to make the
criticism.
joke? Like if they take shots on the court and off the court, how do you predict off the court?
Yeah,
You could do some like social data type models. As far as like out there data that I've gone, like I've scraped Twitter to get poll results. I've asked my followers to like answer a survey for me. And I use that to build like propensity models. So propensity model is going to line up any data set and find lookalike matches. So go away from the discussion of, Jeremy and I are both bald, bearded. You'd match us together, but you might look at more of like, okay, what if you put in region or likes and it's going to match, Courtney and Jeremy together. But on the surface, you would never think it's like, oh, gender differences, look nothing alike. That's what these propensity models will help you do. You can use that also to get to like true incrementality. So what I'll do is like, okay, think of like a fun sports question everybody likes. So like, okay, who's going to perform more? And obviously, this might be a bad example, but like Luca or Zion, they're both out of it right now. You'd run a propensity model to see if it's even like a fair discussion. Like
right.
in football. I forgot who did the analysis. I think it was like Neo Cards. He does like a weekly market movers type of thing. He's an affiliate, so he looks at charts and graphs. It's not his background, but he's not articulating data wrong. But sometimes, like when you self-service and you make data, more democratized, you know, you're not going to always run that propensity model. So he's talking about like young quarterbacks, and it's like, okay, yeah, Jalen Hurts is showing like the highest percentage, but should you even be comparing him to Herbert or others?
Right.
Probably clean it up just a little bit first.
It's
I love it, and I know we want to talk about some other stuff, but like the one thing that I would be like, what is the biggest before we move off of this? What is like the biggest variable you have to take into account outside of human behavior that could really skew a model?
Yeah, you can throw in confounding factors. If it's like your first time building a model, and it might not be as obvious, and you think like you want to throw in sales, you want to throw in transactions, you want to put in average sale. Well, average sale is actually a calculation from sales and transactions. So you have to kick out sales or transactions. So sometimes like you're your own worst enemy when you think like, oh, I'm gathering all the data, and that's before we even go into overfitting. We think of like fun data we can throw in there. Okay, everyone wants to jump to like the outside economic factors, right? So say you build a model where like how much your household incomes is, what your bills are, which area of the country you live, which sports team you root for, did you collect when you were a kid. It's not, you can't implement that to a larger group when it hits.
right,
You're going
because
to get
it's
like a
just gonna be
one-time
so different. Yeah,
accuracy. Yeah.
that makes sense in like such a wild way of like it's nothing that I would think about typically when I'm looking at cards. I feel like I'm sitting here very quietly and I should be talking because this is a podcast, but I feel like I just learned so much in such a short amount of time that I'm like processing it. And now I feel like you should do classes or a TED Talk or something because I would definitely go to that.
Yeah. I did an Avengers and analytics like type of 101 analytics panel in New Orleans. And I don't know if you're aware of the collector, but Graded Gamer.
Yes.
She happened to be in New Orleans at the same time and
She's so cool. She's so
attended
cool.
it. And she stayed for the entire panel. They just let me ramble for like 45 minutes, but
That's
it's
the kind of
presented in a way where everyone can learn. It's like if you love Marvel or love whatever your fandom is, I show you in a way, well, you actually can be an analyst.
I'm gonna put this out. You said you can go to Mint next year.
That's what I'm hoping on doing.
He needs to be on a panel.
I'm right now, Lauren, Blake, all you guys over there at Mint. We need a pancake analytics panel. Immediately sign me up. I will be in the front row with my notebook taking notes. So I'm clipping this and I'm tagging the Mint. Like next year, I'm planning your panels already. We need this one. So
It's going to be the night before, like, Court, do you want to go get a drink? She's like, no, I've got Tom at 9 a.m. and I'll be damned if I'm going to be hungover for that.
No,
I need to be on point.
Just hair of the dog. Keep going. Keep rolling.
It is Vegas after all. So no, I'm like, I came on here thinking we were going to talk about Disney cards, and now I'm like, I have like 6 million more questions about this. So we're just going to have to do several. You're going to have to come back on and do another hobby night school just about like analytics.
That's my fault, Court. Like I knew, like when he started talking about his models. I'm like, oh, I'm so fascinated.
This is by far Jeremy's like favorite thing, and typically I'm like, oh, we're talking, oh god. But the way that you say it and the way you're presenting it, and like, this is how you get people into analytics, because you're putting it into parameters of something that I find very interesting. So now all of a sudden I'm like, well, okay, I can understand this and I like it. So
well, that's why you liked his page, Court, because you look at it, it's colorful. Like every fourth picture is like legitimately like just a stack of pancakes. There's some like real nerd humor. Like the pie with the actual pie logo in it. So it's like it's fun, and it's like we talk with Manny all the time. Sometimes Manny learns best when he doesn't even realize he's learning. And so,
Yeah.
like for me, it's
You're
very
talking about a child.
No, that's the key. Like one of the best advice, and I take it to heart, maybe too much sometimes. I got from it's like a chief marketing officer of my company, and it was just like passing by in the coffee room, and he happened to, I guess, be a little upset from a meeting, and he just was like, "Listen, Tom, if you want anybody to ever listen to you in this generation, like I'm part of that generation, but he was just upset. Like, put it in a meme," and he just like walked away. So I was like, that's actually a good idea.
It's like it's like 85% of like Generation Z gets their news from memes and TikToks. It's an astounding amount. Their attention span is this big.
Yeah.
And mine too, actually, if I'm being honest. I'm not gonna like shit on Gen Z. It's like this big. And if you can give them something that they can learn within that, like, I don't know, 30-second TikTok in an interesting way, they'll retain that forever. My kid will like spit back stuff to me that I'm like, how do you even know this? Oh, I saw a TikTok. And usually they're right as long as they're not watching, crazy ones. But
Yeah. I'm glad you picked up on the pie like reference. Because I'll tell you one, Kakawa, their first tweet ever was a huge like coding programmer reference, which a couple of people, I guess, like heavily on the Wise Sword Swides or whatever the competition is, tried to use it to say like, oh, it's a fake company, it's not a real company. But their first tweet was "Hello World." Like that's the first thing, like as a programmer, you learn how to program is the script shoots out "Hello World."
yep.
So it's like they were making a joke, and that's where it's like, okay, your joke can't be too niche, but make
I
it a
think a
little
lot of
broader.
people know like Hello World. Like that was,
Yeah.
that's like that was cool. I
Yeah.
Do you know
think
how many intelligent people have laid Easter eggs just everywhere out in like broad daylight that like, a novice or a boob like me just completely misses?
any Disney
Cool.
movie, Disney's known, and Pixar, they're known for that. That's like their huge thing. So for the Kakawa to come out and have their first thing be kind of an Easter egg like that, that's very on brand for Disney as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I mean, there was a couple of Easter eggs. We were at Galaxy's Edge, so Hollywood Studios last weekend, um, and I didn't even realize it until I got home and just saw it in a reel from like some Disney News whatever account. And there's like hidden Donald Duck buildings in Galaxy's Edge. So they made the buildings look like Donald Duck's like head and hat. I
Oh,
was like, really? Oh, and then when they pointed it out, it's like, how did I miss that? Like they have Star Wars flags hanging in alien language, but it looks like his little tassels on his head, and it's like, oh,
that's
now it's
awesome.
too
Cool.
obvious.
It's like it was so obvious you didn't notice. I remember one time I was kids and we were playing hide and seek, and my brother just stood against the wall with a blanket over his head, and everybody walked past him for like 10 minutes because it was so like he was so obviously standing there. I don't know. He just like ignored it. Your brain was just like, nope, don't see that.
Yeah,
So
but when you guys, if you get the chance to go to Galaxy's Edge, like your head's just going to be looking all around the whole time. Like they did a really good job. Like the forced perspective they put, and it's cool.
I
so
can't wait.
it's got you got like a lot of design geniuses working on that, and
Imagineers, they
yeah,
call themselves.
that is yes, Imagineers. So I've actually never been to Disney in my whole life. I am a huge Disney fan. I've seen, I think, every Disney movie that has been available to me in my lifetime, and then, some of the ones that they've like put away that you can't. I've seen those as well, but I've never been to Disney. So I like that is definitely something that's on my bucket list of like life adventures to do. But these new Disney cards have been an absolute joy as a parent because
Yeah.
we got on the bandwagon of those way before PSA was grading and shot the price to the roof. So I didn't know if they were ever going to be worth anything. Like I was like, maybe they will. I was getting them for like $140 a
Yeah.
box,
Yeah.
and it felt with what we pay for like sports cards that felt like very affordable, which sounds super shitty because that's very expensive still. But when you're paying $400 for a box of Obsidian and you get nothing out of it, and and it's not as much fun to rip as these Disney cards were, I was like, I'll pay $140 for this box of cards where my kids are going to be super excited about every card that I pull out because they know everyone in it, you know?
Yeah, I mean, my kids love it too. My wife made us open our whole case that we got. And so, like, she doesn't really get excited about many trading card sets. So it's like, okay, you want to open it? Let's open it. So, I mean, I was ahead of the set from the beginning. Like, I saw it and it's weird because it makes me kind of a hypocrite because somebody in a QA session I had at MegaCon a couple of years ago said, oh, they saw this card in a reel. Like, should they buy it? And I was like, oh, I never do anything based off of a reel, but I made a purchase decision off of an Instagram story I saw, and it was from just a distributor, and they were just putting photos of like the set, the sales sheet. And I was like, is this thing real? I was like, because that looks like Prism.
It does.
But Disney, maybe they got the same type of printers. And I was like, I'm going to take a real gamble if it's not licensed or anything. And then the price was just right.
That's exactly, I think, what it boiled down to for a lot of people initially was that the price was right. Yep. And the cards were licensed. And there's a lot of crossover with the sports card community because it did look like Prism when you were opening it. I was like, wow, they were really well done. They were numbered. And the Weiss Schwarz cards, they're not numbered. And numbered cards are really like, I don't know, for like that crossover group of people where, you know, when I'm ripping the Disney Pixar and I have to like read like if it's RR or PXR or Luxo or whatever, and then have to know, you know, that this, you know, is one in every 40 boxes just based on the letters at the very bottom. That is confusing, where this is very user friendly for people who are like me, who don't know those kinds of things. Like, I don't want to have to, like, sometimes I just want to like rip a box and enjoy it. I don't want to have to read every article written about it so that I understand the print run, especially because a lot of it was in languages, you know, a language I don't read. So it made it really hard. Shout out to Ghost Breaks for getting me like the actual like sheet with everything in English so I could read it. Because otherwise I would have no idea what I was doing.
Yeah, I had my first experience with Weiss Schwarz. It was their marble set. I bought a case. I think I bought a full case of it. And the reason is because they were going to have a secret rare Ghost Spider that they used the image from Peach Makoko variant cover. So Peach Makoko, love her art. And then Ghost Spider is my daughter's favorite hero.
Mine too.
So it was like a no-brainer. Luckily, pulled two of them. Oh, so that was cool. But it was like a really awful gamble to do. Like, I should have just probably waited on eBay and tried to snipe one, you know.
Well, luckily your gamble paid off. So.
But that's why we collect. Yeah. So I kind of knew going into Disney that I wasn't going to buy a whole case of it. I only bought 4 boxes of Weiss Schwarz of Disney. Pixar, I only bought 2 because the experience from the Marvel. Like, I knew it wasn't the TCG. It's not going to have serial numbered cards. You know, hard to get the whole checklist out there. Like, you're going into it blind. Just wait on the singles. So,
yeah,
I don't know if they'll reprint. They did multiple printings of the Marvel set.
So, I heard that the Pixar set's already set to have another another print run. Yeah. So I saw when I was buying the first, I only bought 2 boxes, I think, of the Pixar. I bought one when I was in Burbank, just because I had never seen it and I was very excited about it. Actually, my friend was very excited about it and she hyped me up. And then I often do that where I get FOMO and I'm like, well, you're buying a box, I'm going to buy a box. And that's how I ended up with the Pixar cards. And then
she didn't listen to my FOMO model, man.
No, the FOMO model is always, this is the FOMO model, guys. It's always, you don't even have to put any data into it. Cause like if it's here and then you add the FOMO model, it's just, it tanks.
I had a I had a follower jokingly comment on a Street Fighter post I did. And he was just like, I just got to stop following you, man. And he did like a money icon. But it's like, that's what just happens. I find like a set, do some research. That Street Fighter set, I went to Dave and Adams just to see like, where the hell is my Marvel Allure set? Like, when is that
Yeah.
even coming out? Like, I pre-ordered it already like almost a year ago. Yeah, I think it was a year ago. But Upper Deck's got all crazy type of problems right now.
That sounds
And
like
then
zero
like
cool.
and then like that popped up on pre-sales. And I was like, wait, $20? I was like, okay, I'll give it a try. And then they had the sales sheet and it's numbered cards. They call them like gemstones, so not precious metal gems, but you know, Street
Like
Fighter characters. So
that's
cool. But now it's like, oh, great way to hype and pump something
I
just because
like
I thought it
Street
was cool.
Fighter. That's the thing. The second that you have
Yeah.
like even the little bit of an audience, and you're like, "Hey, I love this. I just personally like this." I feel like I can't talk about it because I don't want anyone to ever say that I'm pumping something. I was just like, "I think this is cool. Buy it
Yeah.
or don't buy it."
That's
But
why
yeah,
I feel like a broken record anytime I share like a Black Widow card. I have to, in the caption, say like, I named my daughter Natasha.
yes,
It is my wife's favorite superhero. It's the name of my daughter. This
I
is a card I picked up.
like I bought this not knowing if it was going to be valuable at all. I just thought it was neat, and now all of a sudden it's blown up. But I liked it personally.
Yeah.
So it is hard. That's frustrating because like if you find something you enjoy, you
Yep.
just have to be careful how you talk about it because you don't want anyone to give you crap about it later.
So
And
what do
you
you
have a
think
way bigger
about?
platform than I do.
Yeah, he does. Yes, he does. My man's over here pumping pancakes. I'll be damned if I ever buy one of those overpriced things again.
I can make it myself.
I was like, I can make my own pancakes.
So, like for instance, like the Disney, those came out, and we didn't know a lot about them. Once we got word that they were licensed and they weren't just some knockoff, we bought a few boxes and just ripped them. And we ripped them actually live at a card show. Manny then ripped a box with his daughter, and actually watching him and his daughter go card by card, and they're shiny, they're characters that she knows from the movies and the TV shows. It was just an awesome, awesome product. And then we were quick to identify like, hey, we want to grade this. We were so early that we sent it off to grading, and it got kicked back before anybody would actually grade them.
Oh,
And then we had put the cards that we wanted to keep for the PC, and then we just threw everything else up on eBay. And I remember that Sunday night, silver's going for over $200. Base cards going for like 20,
yeah.
30, $40. Like, oh my goodness, there is something to be said being first to market. And then we ripped some more boxes. And then all of a sudden, next thing you know, they were six, seven, $800 a box. And we were ripping them because we enjoyed them. We weren't ripping them to make money,
Yeah.
And then we entered this weird spot where it's like this seems like it's gone up so fast, and typically without even being analytical, oftentimes when something goes up that fast, it
Outlier.
comes
Yeah.
yeah, it comes exactly. It comes crashing down, and I'm in this weird spot that I don't know if these things are being pumped, if this is sustainable. There's just so much information and misinformation out there. I'm curious as like how you look at it and how you're able to cut out social media noise and come and help me draw a conclusion. Are these things being pumped, or are these actually because they're a limited print run? This is sustainable, or what the hell's going on with
All
these
the
things?
Disney people who are collecting outside of just the card people.
Yeah. So this is a case where social media is going to be your best friend. So I'll use a specific example, and it's something I was researching last night. So think of like the hype and the pump cycle and how to get a card sold, just marketing general 101. So my daughter's favorite Disney movie is Aladdin. So I was like, okay, it'd be awesome to get just like Jasmine, Aladdin type cards from Kakawa for her, fill in the gaps that we didn't get. I was able to get both platinum portraits of Jasmine, the one that's out of 225. So both
That's
variations,
cool.
reasonable prices, like $60. You know, it's all about like you have to hunt and see like, oh, how you guys know
Yeah.
sports cards, non-sports, like, there'll be errors in eBay titles and people not knowing what they have.
Yep.
An Aladdin Gold popped up on eBay and it went for over like $1,000. Went over that, like 1.2. And so that's a highly visible sale. Everyone's like hating on the set or loving the set. Yesterday, Kakawa Global shared in their story because they got tagged on it. The same Aladdin card was graded. So went to that user account, got the number that it was, found them on eBay. They have it on sale for $16,000. So that's where it's like there's these high sales of people trying to corner a market, maybe, or they just see like the opportunity. But that's where social media is your best friend in that case. And it's just the way to market something, right? It's like, okay, he tagged Kakawao in it, knew that Kakawao would share it. Actual collectors have said, oh, look, it's an Aladdin Gold. But where you get stung is when it's a serial numbered card. Everyone's getting really familiar with eBay's API now. I know that Terra Peak's behind a paywall, but if you have an eBay store and you pay the extra price, you can look at 2 years of history and you'll get the actual sales point, take you back to it. The Disney Facebook groups are getting blown up right now with the trading cards. There's a Disney trading card group that was like dormant for almost 2 years.
Yeah.
And one of the first most recent posts in there was somebody posting, oh, Kakawa's being graded by PSA, hashtag the acronym for like, if you know, then you know.
Right.
And so me playing coy, in that group, you're not allowed to have a page join it. So it's my personal account. So they wouldn't know like, oh no, it's pancakes. And I'm just like, oh, what do you know? What's PSA? And he's going to like this long explanation, not mentioning anything about how it brings the value of the card up, just talking about, oh, it's makes them their real cards. This per individual has cross-posted in every single Disney collector group. Sometimes it's claim sales they have, or it's one time it was Y Schwartz as well, and it's not getting any likes, any comments. It's
because
just
they
we're
don't
not.
know.
Yeah, Disney. It's a licensed set, right? Disney doesn't make their own cards. They license with Upper Deck. Upper Deck's had Disney cards for years. They've had serial numbered cards as well. Quality
we had a
isn't
couple
always
sets
there.
of those. Do you remember when we had those? The girls were. We had some.
Yeah, I'm still doing the math. My man went from 1.2 raw to 16.
Yeah,
16K. If I can get like a 13x multiplier on my gems, sign me up.
I know it's ridiculous, and it's like recent sales too. You can go back and see he paid 1.16 for the raw.
I think that people. Do you think that's still kind of a holdover though of like COVID collectors getting in, like trying to find the next thing?
Yeah, the same thing with Lorcana, right?
Yeah,
like that was a Jeremy, to your point. Like when I was looking at data, like Lorcana raised a red flag with me. I was going to try to do like, oh, let me do some statistics on Lorcana because I was excited to collect the set. And then it was like the weirdest looking graph ever in Terra Peak that I've seen. Like prices kept going up, sold kept going up, all the auctions kept getting relisted, completed sales, and that's when I went on like my Discord journey.
Yeah.
I was already in like the fan based like Lorcana. Well, apparently there was also a Lorcana marketplace. And it was a bunch of people like sharing the eBay listings and this, that, ooh, sold it for this, or oh, it's going up. Then it started to shoot down a couple sales too. Like they thought the raw Mickey promo, which 6,000 were printed of it was going to be over $1,000 raw by I think it's December is what they think it's going to be by. And so I did like a video on it and just, my concerns about it. And then I was on AHI's podcast, AHI Sports, and we talked about it a little bit. He brought up my video too. And then in that same Discord, like they shared the link to the video, and the guy was like, "Who does this guy think he is?" And he's like, "What other fan like Lorcana are they talking about Discord? And was he talking about these print counts?" And people in that Discord in the marketplace are like, "Yeah, here's the link to it. There's an actual official one." And he goes into the official, like, did they really print 6,000? Is blah, blah, blah. And people are telling me, like, yeah, here's the print counts. That's where I sourced my data from. And
like you're just making it up to piss that one guy off.
Yeah. But I think, if there was more
like I'm going to get this guy that I don't know.
Yeah, what Kakawa has going for it is like, limited printing. Eventually.
That there's only what do they make? 40,000 boxes, 4,000 cases.
Yeah.
To me, like really, like when you were seeing the base cards go for so high, everyone's like, "Oh, they're base cards," but the base set is 180 characters. So with only 40,000 boxes and 180, that's not it. That's a big base set with a short print run.
Yeah. And you guys have seen what I did with my base, right? I got him my Little Mermaid signed by Jody Benson.
That's
so cool.
Disney's never had on-card autos or sticker autos either. Like, I guess it would probably be too expensive, the licensing deal. But it's like you can get creative with base cards.
One of our friends just shared they had a Mike Wazowski signed by Billy Crystal. I thought that was cool.
Yeah.
They went and got it done themselves, and then they had the autograph. Was it Trees? It was Trees.
Yes. I'm just laughing because I can picture like these people like in this Discord, and they're like, "Oh, here comes Tom with all of his facts, his supporting." Well, what's next, Tom? You're going to break logic?
How dare you use math?
I mean, I've had a lot of fun on. There's one analytics app called Get Collector or Collector or whatever it is. It's for like TCG. There's a lot of functions, features of the tool I don't agree with. Like you can reset the market price yourself.
Oh, well, that doesn't seem.
And supposedly it goes through an approval process, but I've seen it actually works in real time. And so like we'll take like well-known cards like first edition Charizard in that app at the time was like 3x its actual value. And I reached out to them first on Instagram. Like I was adding my collection and it 3x'd my value. And it's cards I don't even have, right? I don't have a first edition Charizard. But I was just saying like it's pretty visible cards, like you probably want to fix that. And they gave like the response of like, "Oh, thank you. We're rely on whatever the community to help out with that," and they were explaining the feature to me.
They're like, "Well, I am the community. I'm telling you this is wrong, so fix it."
And then there were just other just questionable takeaways, sharing of like reels, and they stopped responding to me on Instagram. So I took it all to their Discord where they had to start responding.
You're the best. This is the greatest.
Well, other apps like Card Ladder, Market Movers, like they have a verification process.
Yeah, Card Ladder is strict, man.
They're trying to tell me they had no way of like verifying sales, and that they're working on it. Like they'll put like a ticket open or something. And then recently,
it's very obvious. It takes 2 seconds to go look and see that this is wrong. Like I am not a data analyst, and I can go look and tell you that your card's like. Your market value for this card is like thousands of dollars off. And I shouldn't be able to do that. Like that's your job.
Recently they shared like a growth chart. So just a line chart. And I just checked whatever they were showing. It was some card from some set. And because it looked like really high, it just kept going up. I was like, nothing in trading cards is doing that. Best case scenario, it's getting a little bit more elastic. And I researched it, and they were way off from the price. Like the min wasn't even on their chart. And I reached out to them. They actually reached back because I posed it in a way of just a question. I was like, oh, is this possibly an average, a rolling average? And yeah, it was a rolling average. I was talking to them and I was like, well, don't you think you should show like the true value of the card? Like, oh, it's a functionality we're working on. How? Like, you're querying the API.
Damn it, Tom, this does not fit our agenda.
The thing is, like, I get like being disappointed when someone like you comes in and tells you something. Like,
Yeah.
I have cards where like I'm like, oh, this is gonna be the next big thing, and if you came up to me, you're like, hey, Corey, I gotta tell you, you're wrong. Like, you're dumb, and this is why. And I'd be like, obviously, I'd be like, that sucks so hard. But thank you for telling me, because now at least I know. You know, I'm not like here like thinking that I have something that I don't have. And it's I don't understand the mentality of people who like get mad at the messenger who are giving them good advice. Like, just because you don't want to face that truth doesn't mean it's not the truth.
Well, it's just
and
the questions I have to answer every day at work.
Yeah.
You know, it's like clients will question any data point and you have to explain it.
Especially if it's not in their favor.
And if you're doing a wrong approach, you have to go back and correct it.
Yes. You talked about that you worked for L'Oreal. I also did for a while. Well, I mean, I was a consultant for them in the field, not like all of the math stuff that you were doing. But you would not believe how many times, like, just because I was in the beauty industry, where like I'd have a client sitting in my chair with like black hair, and I'd be like, you can't go from black to blonde today. Like, that's impossible. Like, we could slowly over time, you can see that improvement and get there, but it's not going to be like a one-day thing.
Yeah.
And it might not even be an ever thing, because your hair might fall out before we get there. And they just don't believe you. And you're like, here's the proof, here's the years of scientific proof, here's the math, here's what your hair can actually do. And they just don't want to believe you. And then they go somewhere else and someone else tells them what they want to hear. Yes, you can be a millionaire on this sports card or this Disney card, or yes, you can go from black to platinum in a day, and then their hair falls out. And then they're mad at you because they're like, you told me that, but I didn't listen to you.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of times I take probably the completely other extreme, and not saying anybody should do this, but I just make the assumption value is going to be zero. Like, everything that I have like on display behind me, like, I have it there because I love it. And if it was nothing, I'd still have it on display.
That's something that I hear so many collectors say. And I feel that way. We have several things, a lot of my collection, that if it was worth nothing, I still like the way it looks. It's still going to hang on my wall. I bought it for me. And that is important. It's so important that, like, if your whole collection goes to zero, God hope that never happens. But if it does, like, are you still happy with what you have in front of you?
Yeah, I definitely get slapped on the wrist if it goes to zero.
If it goes to zero, I just be like, well, that's the end of my days. I'm done.
Like, we could have put this to so many trips, so many Disney trips.
Well, here's the thing. If somebody's collection goes to zero, Tom told them it was coming, and they just refused to listen. Right? So at that point, you kind of deserve it.
Gotta take the good with the bad.
So we touched a little bit on the white shorts. We touched on the Kakao. We touched on the Lorcana. There was one other one that just came out that I bought a couple boxes of. And I was like, I was iffy. I was on the fence about it. And then when I talked to you, you also felt the same way that I did. But I bought it very cheap, and I feel like my kids will enjoy it. And it's those new Card Fund Disney cards. So I know almost nothing about them. I know that the boxes, you can pick, the character of the box that you want. And I know that they only printed like 2,000 cases or something. So it's like half of what Kakao did. I have not even seen a single one of the cards yet. I did order two boxes, and so I will have those soon. Have you actually seen them yet? Do you know what they look like?
Yeah, so it's a weird type of like marketing visual they used. It's not really like chibi type art, but sometimes you'll see it on just like Disney products. It's almost like a Funko, it looks like.
It does. Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. I was like in my head, I'm like, what does this look like?
Yeah.
You're right.
Their gold cards are actually like metallic, probably not actual gold, but just whatever material they used. What I do like about that set would probably just be keep it sealed because of what you're mentioning. It's the different characters. Like that's
Yeah.
what I thought was interesting to me. What I didn't like about like everywhere where I tried to like pre-order it from, it's like, oh, it's random. It's like, okay, well, I just want Mickey and Minnie.
Shout out to my friend. He lets you pick the boxes that you want. I picked the ones that I wanted. So if you want the specific ones, I got a guy. I'll link you up with them.
But Mickey and Minnie are going to cost a little bit more.
No, he's selling them all for the same amount. He's chill. But yeah, no. So the boxes, right here, right now, if you're watching on YouTube, I'm just gonna put up a screen of like what all like the boxes look like, so everybody can see. I'll add that in like post editing or whatever because they're cool looking. I found them interesting. I think I picked Minnie, Sully, and like I think maybe I got 3 boxes. I feel like I got 3 different characters. I can't even remember which ones I picked right now, but I definitely got Minnie because my girls love Minnie.
I think they did a Mike Wazowski one too. That kind of
Yeah,
looks cool.
yeah,
It's just
they're cool.
his giant eye, green
It's
box.
Sully's just his mouth, like a blue mouth. That's all you see, but you know it's Sully, even though it's not like obviously the actual Disney artwork.
Yeah,
So
it's hard to tell in the back, but the majority of my stuff is all sealed. So like sealed boxes. What you normally don't see in non-sports is because everybody just has fun ripping them. I try to at least like okay, get a box sealed, get one to open. It's hard. Like the kids want to rip everything now,
oh
so
yeah,
that's the fun part for them. So I think we've gone through almost our case of Panini Super Mario now. I think we got one sealed box left that's not on display. There's one in the display, but yeah,
probably we
my
missed
son
the boat on that one.
goes nuts for Mario. So
Did you all enjoy the movie?
yeah, I loved it. We went opening night, and what's hilarious is my son's 3 years old, and so he was really into it. He loves Mario. He'll watch like the just gameplay videos on YouTube.
Our
He
kids
hasn't
like
actually
that
played
too.
the game yet, but in the theater, what was so hilarious is, and not spoilers, but it was in a trailer. So when like Donkey Kong's fighting Mario, but he got like so competitive, like he was watching a sports game and then was up on top of his chair, like screaming and pointing in like other kids' faces. Like it's hard to tell a 3-year old like everyone's rooting for Mario here. Like you don't have to, dunk on these kids. Like they're on the same team.
We're on the same team. We all agree.
I will
I
tell
like
you that is
Spider-Man.
my favorite kids movie I think that I've ever seen. That was so nostalgic for me, and there was like I don't know, I wouldn't call them Easter eggs, but there was so many subtle and like things
Yeah,
that like referenced the video games at different levels that I just like I was in my glory.
yeah.
He
And
doesn't
my
like kids movies very much. Like when we talk about all the Disney movies, I've seen them all. As an adult, I will still go to the theater by myself. I feel like I almost had children to have an excuse to go to the theater to see the Disney cartoon movies because I love them. I cry, I laugh, they become a part of me. I love Disney movies. So as we're in the theater, I'm like, I keep looking over at him because there are little things in there that I know that he's gonna enjoy just as a person as I know him. And I'm watching him and he's laughing. He's clearly having a good time. I'm like, he likes this movie. This is like because we went and saw
yeah.
Frozen and one of the kids was like being bad and he's like, I'll take her out to the car. He's like immediately. I feel like if one of the kids was acting like a jerk in this movie, he'd be like, shh,
Suck it up.
we're
Yeah.
watching
And
this.
and I'm originally from Brooklyn, and my daughter just started like putting two and two together. Like, oh, like Brooklyn was in this movie. So when we were watching, like after the movie, she's asking me, like, is that what Brooklyn was like? Did that happen? I was like,
Yes,
like,
King
yeah,
Koopa came.
we ate pizza.
King Koopa came
We had a
through a
pet turtle,
hole.
but added like an extra element of fun there.
My kids ask me things like, "Did you have a TV when you were a kid? Were there video games?" I'm like, "Yes." Yes, I'm not a dinosaur. Like, what? Was your TV, did your TV have color though? Like, how old? You were born in the late 1900s, right, Mom? I'm like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Stop.
I actually
Late 1900s.
had a big like letdown on that Super Mario set though. I had a couple of cards with me because Charles, the voice of Mario from the games, was also at MegaCon.
Oh,
He won't sign trading cards.
no.
He had them for sale, and he had them all PSA graded, and he was selling them for $250 a pop. So like, more power to him, but
You wouldn't sign them, huh?
it's like, you would have signed it for my son. Like, make it out to Luke. It wasn't like a flip situation. And
Yeah, this is like
it was just a weird experience.
Would he sign pictures and other stuff
Yeah,
and just not cards?
Yeah, he'll sign the picture for you, but he would not sign trading cards. And they had what was it? The Donkey Kong set, Super Mario, all PSA graded, just for sale, $250 a pop.
Wow.
So I mean, he probably got wind of it, because he's not like a expensive get to sign at all, and so.
Yeah. Well, that makes sense. I mean, how many people actually even know who the real voice of Mario is?
Yeah, and Jody Benson, it was like her first time seeing a trading card. Like, she tried to use all of her pens first. I had oil pens for her to use, but she tried her pens first, and nothing was taking on it. And then she's like, well, maybe if I get this film off. I'm like, there's no film. It's a Chrome card. She almost like tried to rip it in half.
They're like, Jody, please. This is never going to gem now.
Just authenticate. That's
it.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
It.
Nobody wants to see that 7.5 on edges. Thanks, Jody.
Oh, this has been wonderful. I feel like I learned more than I have. I feel like I say this a lot with our guests when they come on, and they're like, I feel like I love having people on that are so much smarter than me, which is almost everyone, to be honest. But this has been, I feel like this whole time I've been sitting here just like absorbing all of like your knowledge. And so to our followers, if you're not following him, which I don't know how you're following us and not Pancake Analytics, please go check him out because he's so smart and he'll make your hobby journey better.
Yeah, I think he's the kind of guy that knows that he can just ask a question in a way that's just going to ruffle some feathers and just sit back and have a good laugh and go about having his beverage. And by that smile, because I'm that same sort of jerk.
It hasn't gotten me in too much trouble yet. It did get me a Zoom call with market movers once. that was fun. They asked me if I was proud of a meme I made. Would I tell my son that? And I said, well, I'm more proud than telling my son I presented fake data like you guys did. Then after the conversation, they asked me in DMs like, oh, where could we get started on like data science, like a data science 101? And then I sent them a link and referred them to the book I wrote.
Dude, that's so sad. You're just like, where's my mic? Mic drop.
Yeah.
Here's my book.
Real quick before,
here's my book.
Before we get out of here, I'm just curious. I think I know the answer, but we've been having this, I don't even want to say debate because I think myself, Manny, and Courtney are all on the same side. What do you think of the Monopoly Prism? Because I feel like more people were going to hate it, and I feel like everybody likes it, and I feel like I'm in the minority. Like, I don't think basketball cards with the Monopoly logo on it are cool at all. And if people like them, I'm no knock to them. But this surely has to be an absolute pump job, right? Because some of these sales I'm seeing, there's no way that's real.
Yeah, I mean, wait till they do basketball Uno. Like, that's going to be a thing soon. Prism Uno. No, a lot of those sales that were being shown have already been relisted. Yeah. Like, I forget which one it was, like the Steph Curry. There's actually only been 2 sales of it. There's been like 20 sales at these ridiculous prices. And then sometimes what is disappointing. I'm finding in Terapeak now is like completed sales will stay there. So it's really like, oh man, I can't really tell if that was paid for money exchanged anymore.
You gotta like you have to go in individually and like pull them up like to find that out. Like 130 Point or Card Ladder or something where they like verify the sale. And then you know if it's like a real sale.
Yeah, but I have not bought any of it.
I didn't
have multiple,
I saw some at the store the other
copies
day.
of Monopolies, different
Harry Potter IPs. Monopoly.
Monopoly, Dogopoly, every damn variation.
Congopoly.
This one I'm staying far away from it because I'd be too concerned about like, oh man, did the Knicks even make the board?
Yes. I feel like Monopoly too is like throughout the years I just got like once a year I'd get like some variation of Monopoly, and then like I play the game like once every 2 years, and I think it just became like my mom bought me Monopoly, and she's like, "Well, you love Monopoly. I bought it for you last year." I'm like, "You just keep buying it. I don't love it."
We have like a whole cabinet filled with like just different Monopoly games. And it's because he's really good at Monopoly. He literally just crushes everyone every time we play. Maybe it would be fun to get you two to play a game of Monopoly and have someone actually beat him for a change. Because I
don't know about that. Like it's like we probably have the same exact strategy. Like any winning Monopoly player, you get the corners and you're good. It's just like probability of the dice, but.
Well, so you try to eliminate that. So we do like, I start in my mind, and it would be fun if I could do like pen, paper, and calculator, because I'm like, we allow like a certain level of table talk where you can cut deals. Like, hey, sell me this, then you get like 3 free rents. And so like, I love exploiting the children where it just seems too good to be true. So they jump on it, and I'm like, cool, I'll pay you rent,
No matter how much I say to them, like, don't make this deal with him. Why do you guys always make deals with him? He always wins. He's never going to make a deal with you where you're going to come out on top. Like, this is not him as a person.
He's teaching them business.
They're not learning. They're not learning.
Hey, I want to be a slumlord. What can I say?
You are. You just destroy our children. And I get so mad because they'll make deals with him, but they won't make deals with me because he'll like look at them. He's like, whatever she's gonna offer you, he's like, I'll give you $500 more. I'm like, yes, jerk.
I'm just trying to win, man. But make sure you follow Pancake Analytics. Incredible follow. Tom, thank you so much for your time, man. Super generous. I know that you've probably got 97,000 numbers up in front of you that you're going to tinker with and put out some chart that'll inevitably piss somebody off. And I am here for that energy. Follow us, all things Reckless Cards. Make sure you like and subscribe and all that good jazz. And until next time.
I did hear that he did a model for Reckless Cards, and it's just like, just so everyone knows.
To the moon.
Yeah, it's a rolling average, and it was actually meant to be tipped this way, right into the dumpster.
Good night, everyone. Bye.